Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay today. I'm starting a little bit late today. I was up at 3 a.m. Doing an interview with Vanessa Beeley. The interview went extremely well. That woman is awesome. That interview went well, so check it out if you get the chance. I'm going to have to chop it up because there's certain parts, but she talks about the white helmet. She talks about all sorts of stuff with her experiences on the ground in Syria. So it was very, very good. Also, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And as I always say, you can support the work through Patreon or Super Chat. The thing I want to talk about today is something that pertains to something I did yesterday. Rachel Maddow. I joked Rachel Maddow. There were some people who had feelings about me joking Rachel Maddow. I need to explain the context to which I joked her. And even in that explanation, it may not fully make sense to people who like Maddow. But those who are more like me will understand where I'm coming from with this. Rachel Maddow has done her show and assiduously stuck to this idea of Trump and Russia. Trump is a maniac. Trump and Iranians. Trump and taxes. The Trump and Iranians one is pretty rich because Trump is actually trying to bomb and kill Iranians. When she revealed the taxes, she revealed that Trump had actually paid his taxes. The last conspiracy theory was that Trump was opening North Korea because of Russians. You can understand that after 2 years of this, some of us will be a little, this is bogus, this is nonsense, especially if you're not on the side where you believe the Russian narrative has any merit to it. With a person who's been this in the pocket of the Democratic Party, and not just in the pocket of the Democratic Party, a soldier to some degree, you can call it a media soldier, but a soldier nonetheless, all of a sudden breaks down. All of the other traumas, she breaks down on this one. Whether Rachel Maddow is being earnest or not, I tried to make ask a larger question. What makes determination for media to focus on a particular topic? I'm fascinated by that, especially when you're presented with information that was already there. It's not that I like what's taking place. Trump deserves the criticism that Trump is getting on this. But two things can be true at once. Meaning, he deserves the criticism he's getting on this, and the problem predated him. People ignore the fact that the problem predated him and immediately hit Trump. Trump made this worse. Trump lied about it. Trump separating kids from their families and everything else. All that's true. But it's also true that Obama was also separating kids from their families and using it as a political tool to try to keep this kind of to create an incentive not to come back to the country. I mean, this wasn't just Trump. I went over the story the other day, but McClatchy came out and I was like, that's awesome. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me saying it. I was showing you information that came from one of the immigration lawyers who, when Obama came back and told the guy, we can't have these people bringing their kids into this country, using that, again, as this kind of, you can call it de-incentive. I don't know if that's a word, but you know what I mean. Disincentive, I'm sorry. Using it as some kind of disincentive. But I just want to make this interesting point. Now, what Donald Trump is doing is horrendous. At the same time, put a pin in that. At the exact same time, the thing that allowed Trump to do this was created in the last administration. Baby jails. Obama had built for-profit baby jails and used those for-profit baby jails. Not to the degree that Trump used them. Again, Trump made it worse. What I'm asking here, and I hope people understand what I'm asking here, why does media choose one topic over the other topic? And you can understand people when they look at this and say, wait a minute, nobody cared when he was doing this, but everybody cares that he's doing this. Why now? It's not that I'm hugging Trump. It's not that I'm not against those kids. I'm against those kids being held in that way. Whether it's Trump that's doing it, or whether that's Obama that's doing it. And this is the thing that's rubbing me the wrong way about it. I may be against it when Trump is doing it and when Obama is doing it. But there are some people that are not with me with the Obama part. The man deported 3 million people. He was turning people away at the border to certain death situations, going back to places like Honduras, places where Hillary Clinton has helped with a coup, sending people back to certain death. I don't understand. That's all. I just don't understand why one gets credit or one gets a hit and the other doesn't. Both should take a hit. This is McClatchy. Yes, Obama separated families at the border too. President Barack Obama separated parents from their children at the border. I like the way he does this because it's one sentence after the next explaining something. Not condoning, but explaining. There's a difference. I love it. It breaks binary thinking. Obama prosecuted mothers for coming into the United States illegally. He fast-tracked deportation. And yes, he housed unaccompanied children in tent cities. For much of the country and President Donald Trump, the prevailing belief is that Obama was a president who was easier on immigration. Neither Obama nor Democrats created Trump's zero-tolerance policy, which calls for every illegal border crosser to be prosecuted and leads to their children being detained in separate facilities before being shipped to a shelter and eventually a sponsor family. But Obama's policy helped create the roadmap of enforcement that Trump has been following and building on. It's been going on for many, many decades and many years, Trump said this week. Whether it was President Bush, President Obama, President Clinton, same policies. They can't get them changed because both sides are always fighting. This is maybe a great chance to have a change. Trump has made tough immigration policy a forefront of his presidency. He wants to build a wall on the southern border. He is trying to impose a ban on several majority Muslim countries. He has targeted sanctuary cities that protect immigrants who are in the country illegally, and he began enforcing the new zero-tolerance policy. He took it further by separating more than 2,000 children, that's so immoral, from their parents as a way to deter future immigration, which has caused national bipartisan outrage. On Wednesday, he signed an executive order designed to end family separations, but children will be detained with their parents. And that's going to run into a buzzsaw because it's against the law to do that for a long period of time. Obama took several actions that led to an outcry of fear and distrust. Through his actions, failed to get the attention that Trump administration has. Though his actions failed to get the attention. Right, and this is kind of my point. Why? Why does one get so much attention but the other gets ignored? The White House declined to comment on specific action of previous presidents, but the DHS official said in frustrating to be blamed for conditions at facilities that predate Trump and for creating new policies that were already in action. We're enforcing the rule of law, said DHS official, who is not authorized to speak publicly. This is something that the previous administration didn't do. The decades of ignoring this is what has led to today's crisis. No numbers on children separation from the parents under Obama is available because the Obama administration didn't keep them, according to Trump's DHS official. Leon Fresco, a deputy assistant attorney general under Obama, who defended the administration's use of family detention in court, acknowledged that some of the fathers were separated from their children. Most fathers and children were released together, oftentimes with an ankle bracelet. Fresco said there were cases where the administration held fathers who were carrying drugs or caught other contraband who had to be separated from their children. ICE cannot devise a safe way where men and children could be in detention together in one facility, Fresco said. It was deemed too much of a security risk. One of the most controversial measures that the Obama administration took was to resurrect the almost abandoned practice of detaining mothers and children to deter future illegal immigration. The government had one lightly used 100-bed facility in central Pennsylvania and added 3 larger facilities in Texas and New Mexico holding thousands. The New Mexico facility would later close, and Obama would face legal challenges that stopped him from detaining mothers and their children indefinitely. A federal judge in California ruled that the Obama administration was violating a 20-year case known as Flores when he kept families detained for longer than 20 days. The Trump administration has used the Flores settlement as a backbone for the separation practice, and Wednesday's order will likely cause more court challenges to Flores. Let's see. Obama took other controversial steps, including fighting to block efforts to require unaccompanied children to have legal representation and barring detained mothers with their children from being released on bond. The administration also deported teenage mothers and their sons back to Honduras soon after she attempted a suicide at Texas Detention Center. Her lawyer, Brian Johnson, finds it difficult finding comparisons, saying they were both tough on enforcement. But he worries comparing what Trump did to Obama makes the crisis today look less significant. Obama was bad. I think the main difference is scale here with Trump. This is kind of what I want to get at. Scale. I kind of made this point before, that it's not so much that the world fell off of a cliff. It's one president is an extension of the other president. That's been my mantra from the day Donald Trump took office. This president is an extension of the prior president. It's not so much that, oh my God, we fell off of a cliff. And I fear that that's the argument that Democrats are making. We fell off of a cliff. So when one of them takes office, all of a sudden all this stuff goes away. It's magic. Missing the point that the previous administration was, to some degree, set the stepping stones to get us to the point where we are now. It's not that Obama was holding them in the way that Trump is. He didn't have a zero tolerance policy. So don't misunderstand me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't bad. He deported 3 million people. He was holding these people in baby jails. He was separating families also. No outrage. Nobody cared. Well, there were a few people that cared. But most people, no one was paying attention. Trump is just a stepping stone. Both parties are the problem. I keep saying it. Both parties are the problem. It's not one or the other. It's both. I'm asking a larger question here, meta-narrative from the standpoint of news. Why didn't anyone care when this was happening under Obama? Why do they all of a sudden care immensely now that this is happening under Trump? I understand this is an issue of scale. But wasn't it bad before? I mean, after all, they had to build 2 facilities in order to hold the number of people that they scaled up. So it wasn't a situation that nobody knew. And by the way, the 3 million people that was deported broke records. So again, if you're talking about scale, that was scale. Especially if you're talking about scale from the last administration. That was scale. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. What makes one amazing? What makes the other insignificant? I'm going to put this down here. Obama came out and said something about it, ignoring the fact that his administration was deporting people at record pace, was deporting some people back to places that were hostile and deadly, and that they were running, fearing for their lives. and again, set the stepping stones for what we have today. It's not one or the other, it's both. Also, look, we also have to come to deal with something else. This goes beyond building Fortress America. There is no such thing as Fortress America. There is no peace unless other people have peace. Meaning, if you think you have a safe haven and other people are living in shit and piss, you are going to be woefully mistaken. We tried to take control of the South American sphere. If I'm not mistaken, it was called the Monroe Doctrine. This idea that we control these areas around America, including Central America and including South America. This has led to all sorts of coups, all sorts of taking advantage of South American countries. With coups in Guatemala, Chile, if I'm not mistaken, Brazil. We've had coups in one country after the next. Honduras was the recent one where we aided in. We are putting pressure right now as we speak on Venezuela and Nicaragua. I'm trying to make this point that it is not a situation that these countries are left to their own devices. It is a situation that we have taken large influence in the affairs of those countries in ways that have directly influenced and adversely affected their cohesion, the lives of the people who were there. If you have people streaming to your shores, it may be because there was something that was done that set those countries on a course of certain instability. The Marshall Plan that was used to fix countries up wasn't done out of the kindness of our heart. It was done because we wanted to have a bulwark against the Soviet Union. Fair enough. But the question becomes, what do you want? In fact is, if you want those countries to be stable, you may need to help those countries. Or at the very least, stop adversely affecting those countries. Meaning stop trying to put influence in those countries in a way that's causing a certain degree of political instability. Look, my point is just the immigration system is the problem. That's the problem. Donald Trump makes it worse, yes. But don't give the prior president a pass on this. It's not one party or the other. It's both. It's just so happened that Donald Trump is just worse in this particular degree. But the last president was horrible also. And even though he scaled up the horribleness of the immigration stuff, nobody cared. Nobody cared. So, I'm not going to keep this one too long. We need to take direct action and shut ICE down. Shut ICE down. It's not about political parties or the president. Yes. Well, slightly. I mean, Trump is worse on this. I mean, he scaled. It's like Obama might have put those things in place that would have allowed somebody else to use them, but Trump is using them. He's using the zero tolerance policy to some degree that you could say is at the discretion of the president, but it's not something that's necessarily mandated by law. Obama was bad on this. Trump made it worse. I'm just making to the point of, why are people giving Obama a pass at being bad on this? Both things are true. You just admitted people cared. Well, yeah, I did. Immigration lawyers cared. Immigration lawyers cared. The guy who confronted Obama was an immigration lawyer. He cared. People were going to be deported. I'm talking about the run-of-the-mill Democrats, the media, the attention. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. Accountability across the board, I dig it. Yes, that's my point. That's kind of my point. I mean, you deport 3 million people out of the country. Democratic Party goes to sleep. They don't care at all. You have the people who are potentially going to take a hit for it, and you have immigration lawyers. They're in it. They care. They're in the thick of it. I'm talking more so about the party itself. Right now, you have all these bleeding hearts, all these bleeding heart libs crying their eyes out. They weren't crying their eyes out when those 3 million people were being deported. They weren't crying their eyes out when Obama had people in baby jails. None of that stuff was taking place. None of it. And when Hillary Clinton was saying, send them back, nobody took issue with that. That seems like a sensible policy. Then, I mean, come on. Let's be honest. You got it. For-profit prisons make big bucks. We need to shut them up. Yeah, there should not be for-profit prisons. Yeah. There shouldn't be at all. Another kid got shot in the back running away from police in Pittsburgh. So there's that. Carson J. Jesus Christ. Rachel Maddow cries when she wants to raise. She's making $30,000 a day. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's so wrong. They did not separate kids. Yes, they did separate kids under Obama. Yes, they did. Zen life. They did. They absolutely did. You may like Obama, but you need to own up to it. The article even says that they separated kids. Not just to the degree of Trump. No, it wasn't 2000. But yes, they separated kids under Obama. I'm sorry to tell you. The article will be at the bottom. You can read at your discretion. But yeah, they did. I read the clip the other day from the lawyer that talked to Obama outright. And Obama made a similar argument to Trump, that they were using it as deterrence. This thing of, we can't have them bringing their kids to this country in this dangerous trip. Yeah, he did. I'm sorry to tell you, he did. Yeah, they did separate kids. They sent them back into war zones to be killed, raped, etc. We need to acknowledge that the United States is inhumane. Yeah. When you lock up immigrants seeking asylum and separate families, that's not change. It's more of the same. Barack, immigration and separation, Obama. Balthazar. Barack, immigration and separation, Obama. That's hilarious. Yes, we know what Obama really means when he meant, yes, we can kick them out the country. Yeah, you got to be able to admit it. I mean, here's the thing. This is kind of my point. Both things are true. Yes, Obama separated kids from his families. Yes, he created this kind of, added the baby jail stuff. Yes, he ran into legal quagmires within this. But yes, Trump is worse. Like, Obama didn't have 2,000 people separated at one time, taking kids from their baby mamas in this way. At least not in this way, but he was doing it. Own it. Yes, we can stay in the center. We need to dump the duopoly. The establishment is corrupt. We need to stop supporting either side. The wild part about this is neither side has answers to this. Democrats use this for political points, and Republicans get hit by it because they're, let's be honest, their demographic don't like this issue. They can't stand these people coming into the country. And Trump saying rapists and drug dealers, most people in the country, I think, recoil at that. Oh God. But there was a faction of the country that said, yes, Trump is making America great. So their stance on immigration from the standpoint of Republicans, their hands are somewhat tied. Their base will hate it. Their base would hate any changes that take place. And Democrats know it and can just hit them over and over and over again with it. And in this case, Trump has walked into a buzzsaw because of all the issues that they've tried to stick on him that haven't been able to stick. This one has. And for good reasons. For good reasons. It's ripping babies away from their mamas. I mean, come on. Why on earth would that be okay? Like, imagine that just purely from a political standpoint, a child is being ripped away from its mom or his dad, and it's screaming as it reaches out for his. Like, this is the scene that people have in their heads over this. Even if you weren't necessarily on board for the Democratic Party, Democrats are co-opting this particular message as if they are somehow the resistance. We're fighting Trump on immigration. We're the resistance. And it's like, do you know what the last president was? I mean, is this where we are? Where what Obama was is the baseline? No, I'm making a point. It shouldn't be the baseline. That shouldn't be the baseline. Who did it is another stupid watch the monkey game. Yeah. The system itself, man. My system is getting flaky. Speaking of the system. Didn't Trump just sign an executive order? Yeah, he did. Well, the executive order is not going to work. He is going to run afoul of a law. What is it called? I can't think of the law. The Flores law. I think it's called Flores. Trump signed an executive order to have all of them end together. And that's not going to fly. You can only have them incarcerated, I think, for like 20 days. Alright, guys. My system is getting flaky, so I'm going to end here. Yeah, my system is getting flaky, so I'm going to end this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share. Oh, wait. The fire was started by Obama, so I guess we shouldn't try to put it out now that Trump poured gasoline on it. Pretty much, Joan. Pretty much. And Anthony Allen. Thank you, Anthony Allen. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is getting flaky. Joan Levino, Balthazar, and Anthony Allen. Thank you guys very much. Hopefully that part goes through. Okay. Yeah, good. That part went through. Okay. Yeah, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help with the show. And just so I read it again, Joan Levino. The fire was started by Obama, so I guess we shouldn't try to put it out now that Trump has poured gasoline on it. One point on that. The fire wasn't started with Obama. This stuff predates Obama, if we're being honest. The going into the countries and doing bad things to the South American countries. Like Ronald Reagan literally was selling weapons to Iran and using the money in order to fund attacks against the Sandinistan government. That's destabilization. Like, I'm trying to make the point that our interventions into South America, the coup in Guatemala, the coup in Chile, Allende, we've had coups in multiple countries through South America. We've completely destabilized those areas. We've tried to exert a certain amount of control. Venezuela, Nicaragua, right now. Honduras, a few years ago. That's chaos. If you don't want people streaming into your country as refugees, stop causing chaos. I make the point that it didn't necessarily start with Obama because Obama wasn't the one that was, started the interactions in South America that created chaos in this way. But he didn't help. And he didn't make it better. So, traded guns for cocaine to distribute across major American cities. Look up the Ollie North and Rick Ross. Ollie North. Man, I haven't heard that word in a while. Exactly. Blowback. Yeah, blowback. Started 100 years ago. Yes. Kind of my point. Like, the presidents are stuck in this situation where they have to deal with people streaming into the country. But they also engage in politics and behaviors that cause people to stream into the country. Now, Donald Trump may get up there and scream about hope and change, but may scream about people coming into the country, but Trump is also putting pressure on Nicaragua and Venezuela. He is exerting force on South America. It didn't start with Trump. It didn't start with Obama. Both of them were somewhat unempathetic in their approach to dealing with the situation. That's all my point. The media looks at one, but not the other. If you want to say that Trump is bad and worse, yes. But what Obama was doing was also worse And it was worse by a measure of scale. But nobody cared that it was worse by a measure of scale. They turned a blind eye. What I'm asking is, why is that measure of scale worse under Obama ignored? But this focal point is on Trump. This is kind of what I'm getting at. That's all. If you do it, it looks like fairness across the board would be the thing. This comes across as unequal justice in order to go after somebody. I just don't like it. It seems unfair to me. It's like I thought the other one was bad, and now you guys are agreeing with me that this is bad. But why didn't you agree with me that the other one was bad? It's like, come on. It's sad and twisted history, yeah. Everyone gets in your time machine and go to blame Obama. Here's the thing, but that's... Jay Scott, it's not blame Obama thing. I mean, that's not what it is. There's a subtle point that I think you're missing. What Donald Trump is doing is ghastly. I put a pin in that. There was no but behind it. There was no, tweaking, changing, anything. It's ghastly. He's taking babies from their mamas. I've done videos on this, condemning him for this particular behavior. I'm making the point, however, that as bad as that is, if nobody cared when Obama was doing it, why are they caring when Trump is doing it? I'm making this subtle point that it's bad on both. Trump might have been bad also, but he's bad from a degree of scale, not because what he's doing is fundamentally different. Why on earth is it always one, but they gave the other a pass? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Media in this case is almost used as a weapon. It's supposedly this objective lens that's not objective at all. It's making a choice on what to look at. Well, in this case, it's attacked one particular political person while giving the other political person a pass. He can do what he wants to do in the shadows, with the only people caring about it are the people directly affected by it. Trump, not so much. Just making a point. Trump was a Democrat before running. Well, he's a neocon now, whatever he was before. The powder keg is getting ready to burst. Because the military budget and Medicare cuts, it's social distraction meant to emotionally charge you to focus your attention away. See, you think that it's orchestrated. I don't know that. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I know what you mean. You're trying to say, nobody can be this horrendous. But maybe he is this horrendous. I mean, Donald Trump comes in office saying Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers. That's how he starts his campaign. So it's like, is the guy who comes in talking kind of racist going to potentially do stuff that's somewhat racist? Or would he be motivated by something that goes beyond just foreign policy or immigration policy? Yeah. Would he be unempathetic to people trying to get into the country? Yes, even if they're coming from war zones. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Would that cause a distraction for other stuff? Maybe. But does that mean that he did it for distraction? No. He could be that bad and that politically inept. Yes. Both wings of the same bird. They agree on reality the way it is. Hillary Clinton herself said, send them back. Send them back. These people are coming in and pretending as if they were the protectors of the immigrants. We're here to protect the immigrants from Donald Trump. And I'm saying that's laughable. My reason for showing this is saying this is laughable. These parties they view the world in the same terms. This is an issue of scale. This is not an issue of difference. That's what I want to get across. What he's doing is horrendous. It is grossly immoral. And this fix that he's put in by his executive order is not going to fly. It's not going to fly in the least. But don't you want a party that actually tries to fix it? Like the policy of send them back, even if they're coming from war zones. Shouldn't there be more discretion to this? I mean, shipping back 3 million people. Even from the standpoint, I'm trying to focus on getting those countries up to snuff so they won't necessarily be streaming into this country, or changing our foreign policy from the standpoint of South America. I guess I'm just trying to make the point. Something different. Because you're not going to get it with the two parties. And don't fall for the shit that these guys are the protectors of the immigrants. That's kind of my point. Jamal, will you do a video about the U.S. coup in Brazil, locking of Lula da Silva? Well, see, I don't know if that's a U.S. coup. I know what you're talking about, though. Da Silva was ahead in spades, and they put him in prison. And the people who put him in prison all were being investigated themselves. So all of them had like investigations over their head in Brazil. It's fucking amazing. And yeah, they end up locking him up. And they end up deposing, oh God, I can't think of her name. They end up deposing, I can't think of her name. But she was a president. She was a head lead. She was either prime minister or president. Depose, and the next person takes office. And it's not like here in the States where everyone runs on the same ticket. You have people who run on different tickets. So the person who ends up taking the office was essentially a USA stooge. That was a neolib that wasn't part of the Workers' Party. Yeah, you might as well call it a coup. Might as well call it a coup. Dilma Rousseff, thank you. Dilma Rousseff, thank you very much. We flooded Mexico without surplus corn and bankrupted hundreds of thousands of farmers. Then we are outraged when they come here to try to find work. That's my point. Like, globalism has not necessarily done well for everybody. And whether intentional or not, some of the actions that we've taken has had negative consequences. It's not even always military. Yes, we've had the coups and everything else. We've had the banana wars and all this other stuff. But sometimes the actions that you take have negative repercussions. And sometimes those repercussions are people streaming into your country. I'm not saying open the borders, so I don't necessarily have that belief system. But let's stop acting as if we don't have room. And let's stop acting that the problem here is the immigrant. Even when they're coming here to find jobs, the person who gives out the job is the employer. It's the capitalist hitting the immigrant on a lot of this stuff. NAFTA started a lot of our problems with our neighbors. School of the Americas. I've heard of that one. I've been in some of the lectures I've been listening to for the last few days that came up. The EU is the new German empire. No, they don't have power like that. I mean, Germany has taken a major influence in the EU, but we don't even know if the EU is going to be able to remain together. I mean, look at what's taking place. Britain trying to leave. Trying to anyway. I don't know how that's going to go. The Remainers have gotten a decent foothold in trying to keep them, trying to get their way. Italy may be leaving. If Italy leaves, oh God. Slovenia has just elected apparently a Eurosceptic government, or at the very least the number of people who are there and Eurosceptics have the majority. You have a lot of countries who are talking about potentially, if not leaving outright, definitely Eurosceptic. So, I don't know. The EU is everything that Hitler wanted. That part is funny. That is funny. Germany was able to get a stranglehold on Europe through the EU. They don't have a military, though, so it's not the same. Also, it's not like a federal government. But not having a military is a difference. J. Scott, When is Ben Norton coming on? Ben Norton hasn't hit me back. I need to hit Ben Norton back. That reminds me. Yeah, I need to hit him back. He told me he was coming on, and then I haven't heard anything else from him. But Jay, I'll hit him up. Germany will always be evil. Germany is not evil. In fact, it's in an odd way, it's the opposite. It's almost like they have a national guilt, if that makes sense. I could be wrong. This is an outsider point of view. But the taking in of the refugees, it was something else that was taking place. It seems they have a national guilt. So you would think America would have a national guilt, seeing as you committed a genocide against Native American population. Not so much. Not so much. Maybe it takes losing a war before you get a national guilt for committing genocide. I could be wrong. The EU starting its own unified armed forces. The UK is going to be a part of it. Nikki M, I can understand that, but that's somewhat terrifying to me for some reason. I mean, they're supposed to be an economic body. What are they doing with the military? What are they doing with the military? Have you ever been to the United States-Mexican border, Jay Carson? No, I haven't. I've never been to Mexico. I've been to South America, but not Mexico. Trail of Tears. We don't feel guilty, but many of us still suffer from those policies, Sydney. And I always find that weird, Sydney. It's almost like the country doesn't regard its history honestly. We point to Russia, and we say, Lenin killed all those people. Well, it was a civil war. It was a civil war. How many people died in our civil war? That's like saying the American government murdered all these people in the civil war. No, it was a war. It was a war. We committed genocide to take a country. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I mean, it's amazing. The EU army is going to be a NATO puppet to be used against Russia. Yes, that's what I think. And any European nationalist upstarts against austerity and neoliberal policies. So here's the other thing. A country wants to leave the EU. When the EU gets a military, does the EU try to prevent them from doing so? Just like if Texas said, I'm leaving the United States, does the United States Army get engaged? We've already had a civil war when the countries tried to leave, or states tried to leave. Would the same be true there if they get an army? Yeah, just saying. German children are taught to feel guilty for being born German. Calexico is a pretty rundown. Texas will lose everything. Yeah, Texas is not going anywhere. I wish Texas would leave. Good riddance. Hit the bricks. But they're not going anywhere. Texas will have to buy its own military. It would have to supply it. And it's a debtor state, meaning Texas end up getting more from the national government because it's poor and Republican leaning. So yeah. There is no way the United States will spend money on humanely helping these people to become citizens when the corporatists won't let us guarantee health care. Exclusive genius. I agree with you, exclusive genius. I'm trying to make this point that part of the reason why Japan and Germany are close allies with us now, or used to be anyway, was because we built those countries up. We wanted them to be strong, and we wanted them to be friends and allies in a bulwark against the Soviet Union. But the key point is we built those countries up. The idea that we have nations below us that are in dire straits. What would you do? Ask it from a different perspective. You were in a nation, you had a kid, there were gangs roving about with guns. Maybe there was a situation where the government was imploding. Maybe it's one of these governments where there was a coup. Whatever the situation is, there were horrible situations that you didn't want to have your kids in. And you decided, I'm going to take the trek to try to get to the United States for some level of what's the word I'm looking for? To get amnesty at the border. It's not amnesty. It's another word for it, but I can't think of it right now. But essentially to get assistance at the border and allowed entry into the country under this idea of, I'm going to be killed back home. You take that risk. I mean, understand, for the people to even make that trip, the impetus, think of the impetus that needed to be there just for them to overcome that hurdle of, it is a hostile environment and I may die going that way. What would you do? You try to save your kid. You try to save your own life. You take the trek. Meaning, if you want to have a situation where people aren't streaming into your shores, then if you really cared, you would make sure that those countries are intact. You don't break them up. You don't create coups and social unrest. You don't have right-wing armies attacking the governments. You don't create economic pressures against them. You don't foster coups. You leave them to their devices and you help them out when you can help them out. You may say that's a lefty thing to say, but I would make the point that if you want people to stop coming into your country, part of that $20 trillion should have been to make sure those countries were intact. Otherwise, all the impetus is going to be to stream into the country. From a political standpoint, neither party would ever say that, but it is absolutely and completely true. If you want safety, you have to make sure other people are safe. And in this case, if you want refugees to stop coming into your country, you have to stop them from being refugees. Why are they being refugees? There's chaos in their countries. Help them with the chaos. Stop causing the chaos. And you can at the very least stymie or stem the tide of the number of people coming to your shores. So, just saying. They're migrating here because American foreign policy destroy us. So Jamal wants U.S. intervention. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. You're missing what I'm saying. I don't want intervention. I'm not saying invade the country and blow it to hell. I'm saying our foreign policy, the interventionist foreign policy that we've had, has destabilized those countries. I'm saying that needs to stop. That's the first point. The second point, in the same way that we've assisted those other countries during the Marshall Plan, I'm saying either through resources or logistics, we also should help them. If they don't want to help, fine. But if they do, we should help them. There's no way you're going to stop the tide of refugees coming to your shores without eliminating the reason that they're refugees. And part of the reason is because of things that we've done in those countries. We need to stop that. That's the first point that I'm trying to make to you. I'm not saying go into a country militarily. Jamal, when you go to those travels, make sure you and your wife take care. I'm sure the CIA will be spying on you due to the topics you're covering. Oh, God. Don't make me self-conscious. I blame the United States for southern nations' problems. I do too. There's a list of... Look, the United States invaded Bolivia, Chile, El Salvador, Uruguay, Brazil, Haiti, coups at this point. Argentina, Panama, Peru. Think about that. I mean, some of these are as early as 1990, 1989, 1980s. It's like, I don't understand why these countries are in political turmoil. Really? You don't? You don't? I've only lived here for my whole life, but please inform me, sir. Uh-oh. Merkel may... Jeff Curry. Ah, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Jamal, so you suggest fair policies. That will never happen. I'd expect landmines at the border before you start to use good policies. No, I agree with you. I'm not Pollyannish on this. I agree with you. I'm saying in a world where people cared about solving things and not necessarily care purely about the politics of it, Or if people were rational and they wanted to actually solve issues, that would be the way you would go about it. Not, like, look, I understand this thing of having someone at the border. Fair enough. But if you're not doing something to stop the tide, then you're always going to have chaos at your border. Always. You're always going to have people storming to your gates if you're doing things that causes people to storm to your gates. If those countries are in political turmoil, you're going to have people storming to your gates. That's all I'm saying. If you want to stop it, you got to deal with the reasons why they're coming. So, Jay Carson does no tide. And that's the other part. Jay Carson is right. Carson J is right. We don't have the amount of immigration at this point is like zero. Like the net immigration. Donald Trump. Look, Donald Trump is taking kids away from their families and everything else. But there is not this mass amount of people. He's overplaying this to some degree in regards to acting as if there's this kind of major problem in immigration. There's not. There's not. I think the AfD will win the next German election because Merkel's incompetence and disastrous policies. Merkel is in a tight spot, man. She's in a precarious situation in that government. Wait, just make one point, because Carson J is right. When I'm talking about the tide, I'm saying from the standpoint of people thinking from the perspective that immigration is this big deal. Immigration is not this big deal. In their mind, you have all of these people coming into the country, but that's only because Donald Trump played it up as if it's this major thing that we're inundated with and all this other stuff. We don't have a huge number of people streaming into our country, and if I'm not mistaken, the last time I checked, the net was like zero. So there's that. Will Donald Trump play this up for political effect? Yes. Yes, he will. Will Democrats play this up for political effect? Yes, they will. But we need to be very clear that both parties are bad on this. It's just one party tends to be worse because of their base, the things that they're pushed to do. The zero tolerance thing is nonsense. But that's besides the point. Those people that are coming to the border, it may not necessarily be a tide, but there are still people coming to the border. Same thing, and nothing I said changes. It still boils down to what is taking place in those countries that's pushing people to come into the country. That hasn't changed. Mexico won't even let you cross without a passport. Yeah. Dark roasty lefty. Bernie said Trump's goal is to divide us. Trump has done just that. Has he? Has he? It seems like people are consolidating around Democrats. That's what it seems like. I mean, ultimately, see, I haven't watched the news, so I don't know how Trump supporters are responding to this. I suspect you're going to have a percentage of them that don't care, that would even like the fact that these kids are held in pens and baby jails and he's taking them off to concentration camps. But I think you lose some of the voters. Like, I honestly think you lose some people with policies like this. I agree that media is not objective, meaning it's choosing what to focus on and what not to focus on. Fair enough. But it is focusing on it. And from the perspective of somebody who's watching, it just seems like this is objective and this is the news that's taking place. And oh my God, the country fell off of a cliff. Look at what Donald Trump is doing, and gives this impression that this is something new, unprecedented, never has taken place before. Well, it took place in the last administration. Somebody watching that is not going to like that. They're not going to like it. So, this idea of divide us, I suspect this has created a coalition of people that are against what's taking place. As for division, look, I think the focus on identity over class is a problem. And the focus on identity is used as an obfuscation over class. The conversation of class they don't want to have. So they use this mask of identity in order to cover all of this other stuff that needs to be discussed and talked about. As if putting someone who's black or Asian or whatever in a particular slot is the same thing as putting somebody in a slot to represent those interests. It's not the same. It's not the same. The Order of Chaos. The radio played children crying and screaming for 60 seconds straight. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you hear that and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, what Trump is doing is grossly immoral. But even beyond being grossly immoral, the politics of it is atrocious. Like, are you serious? What? Even if you believe that, like, even if Donald Trump actually believed that there were people streaming across the border, that Hispanics with tacos and pot and heroin, because he thinks they're rapists and drug dealers, are streaming across the border. Even if he believes that, the politics of this looks horrendous. I mean, you've taken this extra step of the powers that Obama was using and to use for political effect, stripping mothers away from their children. And then you have the sadistic psychopaths who are implementing this policy. It's amazing. I mean, from a political standpoint, if I am running against Trump, I would have that screaming baby for 60 seconds. That would be my campaign ad. Just that baby screaming for its mother, with slowly fading out to black, with the sounds of the baby screaming and wailing at the top of his lungs. His political acumen is so insignificant. Like, this is so bad on so many levels. What Donald Trump misses is, yes, a section of the country may be okay with this. A larger section is not. 20% of the people who voted for him voted for Obama. Those 20% can go the other way. Those are not his voters per se. And those voters were there more as an anti-establishment vote. It wasn't the fact that Trump won Hillary laws or the Democrats' laws. It's the difference in those things. Having people see that is problematic. The media has been trying to put a knife in Donald Trump for the past 2 years. They've tried everything from, called him everything but a child of God. And none of it stuck. This is sticking. This is sticking. Alright, I'm going to end this because I have one or two other items that I wanted to do today. And this one is going a little bit long. Guys, I appreciate you guys showing up. And I think we had a decent conversation. People think I'm being a dick for my perspective on Maddow. For the moment, accept, or at the very least, see the perspective where this is not real. Where this is some degree of a person who's been trying to go after Trump from day one while ignoring the other stuff and crying in this kind of politicized way. And if you see it that way, then you don't necessarily see a person who's just weeping and breaking down because of trauma. It's more politicized, you could say gamesmanship if you want to call it. So yeah. Alright guys, I'm going to end it here. People say don't feel bad for her. I don't feel bad for her. I do want people to understand where I'm coming from. It wasn't just me hitting somebody because they were crying. It was more so me hitting somebody because they were pretending to be crying. Or hitting somebody because they were crying either on cue or crying. I took it as politicized. That's all. I took it as politicized. So, alright guys. I'll see you guys shortly. Probably in 10-15 minutes. Thanks everyone.